You might have noticed on some of my videos that I utilize the end screen function on YouTube. And that is where you can get thumbnails, or where you can put rather thumbnails of some of your other videos on the end of your video that's playing. So the viewer's going to see them at the end, thumbnails of all your, a selection of other videos. Now, when I was doing that a lot, a couple of months back, on pretty much all my videos, I was putting the thumbnails. I noticed that those videos, maybe it's just all in my head, or maybe there's something to it, but I noticed that those videos were getting demonetized more quickly than videos that didn't have the end screens on them. So I'm going to try again and put those end screen annotations, they're called, on the end of some of my videos and see how it goes, and see whether I'm still getting demonetized more quickly with putting those in the end. But anyway, the point in this video is I'm going to start putting recommended videos at the end of some of my videos. Okay, on the end screen, you're going to see thumbnails of videos that I recommend or videos that I reference, and you can go click on them at the end, and it just makes it a bit easier for you. I believe it also works on mobile, so you don't have to be on a PC or a laptop or whatever. You can be on your mobile or tablet, and you'll also be able to access it. So in this particular video, I'm going to be talking about Chris Eubank Sr. versus Chris Eubank Jr., comparing them as fighters, because a lot of people get caught up in nostalgia. A lot of people like to wear those rose-tinted glasses, and they will swear blind that Chris Eubank Sr. was a million times the fighter that his son will ever be, and his son is only a cheap imitation, a knockoff that is only relevant in boxing because of his dad's name. He's really done nothing. He really doesn't have much talent, etc. Well, I want to direct you, and I'll leave a on-screen annotation thumbnail at the end of this video. You'll be able to see it on screen and click it. It is not my video. The video's got nothing to do with me. Just in case there's any copyright issues or whatever. For all I know, the individual who uploaded the video, they have the copyright for it. So it's a video of Chris Eubank Sr. fighting Tony Thornton. Now, Tony Thornton was a tough, workman-like fringe contender. That's what he was. And he campaigned at middleweight, super middleweight. I believe the fight against Eubank Sr. was at super middleweight. I remember the fight when it happened. It's actually not a bad fight. And he was relatively unknown when he fought Chris Eubank Sr. I think the only real names that Tony Thornton had fought up to that point is he'd fought Doug DeWitt, who wasn't exactly a household name everywhere either. But he fought Doug DeWitt, and he'd fought, who else? Murky Sosa. So, he was fighting guys who weren't particularly well known either, and they certainly weren't Hall of Famers. And he lost to both those. No, I think he beat Murky Sosa. He lost to Doug DeWitt. Who else did he lose? He lost to Steve Collins as well, actually. But this is when Steve Collins was unknown. Steve Collins was fighting in the USA. He was based over there, and he was about, 13, 14-0. And nobody really knew who the hell Steve Collins was at the time. So, yeah, going into the Eubank fight, Tony Thornton hadn't really fought anyone. And he lost to Steve Collins, obviously, I think on points. So, fringe contender. He'd lost pretty much every time he'd stepped up on points. Eubank Sr. fought him. And I'm telling you now, Eubank Sr. had a very tough fight against Tony Thornton. I think he deserved to win. But it was relatively close. It was competitive. The fight went 12 rounds. And it wasn't a devastating performance by Chris Eubank Sr. This was after he'd beat Nigel Benn, after he'd beat Michael Watson a couple of times. Obviously, the tragedy with Watson in the second fight. But my point being, you go back and look at some of those Eubank Sr. performances, and a lot of them were unconvincing. What about when he fought Ray Close? That was even less convincing. In fact, I'll leave thumbnail annotation links on the screen at the end of this video to not only the Tony Thornton fight, but also Ray Close and a couple of the other Eubank Sr. fights where he looked less than convincing. And just to put it in perspective, some people are going to say, well, Tony Thornton, if he was around today, he'd be a world champion. He'd be dominant. Would he? Really? Was Tony Thornton that great? No, he wasn't. He was a fringe contender. He was a tough guy. He managed to go the distance with, you know, Chris Eubank, James Toney. He went the distance with him. I already mentioned Doug DeWitt. He had his last fight, his final fight against Roy Jones Jr. And Roy Jones Jr. wiped him out in 3 rounds. He absolutely obliterated Tony Thornton. Tony Thornton. Roy Jones wiped the floor with him. One of Roy Jones's more devastating knockout victories actually was against Tony Thornton. This was a prime Roy Jones. So Thornton was a tough guy, but look at him. He's basic. If you haven't seen him fight before, he's a basic guy. No special effects. Nothing amazing that he does. But he manages to give Eubank Eubank Sr. a pretty good fight. Same goes for Ray Close. And the Ray Close fights were contentious in terms of the scoring. A lot of people felt like Ray Close won. Ray Close. Have a look at Ray Close. No disrespect to the guy, but do you think that Eubank Jr. would necessarily struggle with Ray Close? Maybe he would, but I'm telling you, I don't think he'd struggle any more than his old man did. I don't think he'd struggle with Tony Thornton any more than his old man did. I think Tony Thornton's almost not quite tailor-made for Eubank Jr., but close to. I think Tony Thornton, he had a pretty good jab. I would say Thornton, he had a pretty decent jab. And you had to use a lot of movement to get out of the way of his jab. But he came in with the earmuffs on, as Teddy Atlas likes to say, squared up shoulders. And he would have been right there for Eubank Jr.'s uppercut. Eubank Sr., I think, was more effective at long range. He appeared to have longer arms than his son has. I think he was a more concussive hitter, but he didn't have the work rate of his son. He had decent hand speed in flashes, Eubank Sr., but overall I'd say his son has much better hand speed and is a much better combination puncher than his dad was. The chin, Eubank Jr. hasn't shown any frailties as far as chin goes at the moment. It remains to be seen whether he has his dad's level of chin, because his dad fought much bigger punches than Eubank Jr. has fought so far. So we'll have to find out whether Eubank Jr.'s chin compares to his dad's. But so far, so good in terms of chin. And, you know, I really don't see any reason why Eubank Jr. can't do what his dad wants him to do, which is be better than him. That's what his dad wants for his son. What any dad really should want for their son is not for their son to equal their achievements, but to better their achievements. And that's what Eubank Sr. is looking. He's trying to groom his son to be better than he was. And I don't see any reason why he can't do it. He seems to have the potential to me. You know, I know there's the rose-tinted glasses, and looking back on Eubank Sr. and looking back on the era and thinking it's a million times better than today, but I don't see it that way. They had good fighters back then, but there's good fighters today too. And you know, Eubank Jr. is a very talented young man. And we'll see what he's got against George Groves. If he loses to Groves, if it's competitive, it's not the end of the world. George Groves is a very good fighter, a more experienced fighter than Eubank Jr. You know, Eubank Sr. lost fights. You go back and look how many, as I say, close decisions Eubank Sr. had that really he was lucky to get them decisions. Anyone who was around watching boxing in the 90s will know that Eubank Sr. was very, very fortunate with a lot of his decisions. And he had so many fights, Eubank Sr., against guys that you have never heard of before or since. I remember him fighting some South African guy called Dan Shoma. Have you ever heard of Dan Shoma? I've never heard of him before, before or since. I think he was South African anyway. Was that fight in South Africa or was it in the UK? I don't know, but yeah, Eubank Sr. fought a whole heap of guys you've never heard of. And yeah, Eubank Jr. gets accused of this too. But again, the point I'm making is, why are some people acting as though Eubank Jr. can't do as well as his dad or better? Because, you know, his dad's resume wasn't exactly devoid of weak opposition. He fought strong opposition too. Obviously, Michael Watson was a very good fighter. Nigel Benn, Steve Collins, Joe Calzaghe, Carl Thompson, etc. But there was plenty of filler in that resume of his too. And he would be the first to admit that. There was plenty of filler in there. So yeah, I don't see a big disparity at this point in time between Eubank Sr. and his son Jr. I think Jr. is carving out his own name in the sport. And of course, he's supposed to associate himself with his dad. Why not? It's helped him make more money associating himself with his dad. You know, it's like when people complain about Eddie Hearn. And look, I've got my own criticisms of Eddie Hearn from time to time. And plenty of you guys have got your criticisms of him, many of which are legit criticisms. But one of the things people say is, oh, Eddie Hearn's only made it because of his dad. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. And like Eddie Hearn always says, yeah, I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. And I'm going to make the most of it. What am I supposed to do? Like, not take advantage of the platform that my dad has built? What kind of madness would that be? That just sounds like jealousy. Of course, you're supposed to leave your kids, or at least try to leave your kids with more than you had, to give them a head start and an advantage that you never had. That's what you're supposed to do. And that's what Barry Hearn did. And your child is supposed to take advantage of the work that you've done. They're supposed to capitalize and make the most out of the platform that you've given them. And that's what Eddie Hearn has done with the platform that his dad Barry gave him. And that's what Eubank Jr. is doing now with the platform that his dad Eubank Sr. gave him. He's supposed to do that. Why are people complaining about it? You're supposed to do that. So yeah, anyway, a little bit of a long video, but let me know how you feel in the comment section below, people. Eubank Jr., I know a lot of you guys hate him. My whole thing is, it's not really about whether I like or whether I hate a guy in terms of his personality. It's about what I see him do in the ring. I'm an objectivist, and I think Eubank Jr. is very talented, and the George Groves fight really will tell us a lot. I hope that if he beats George Groves, he gets the proper credit from some of you guys. I hope so, because so many of you who are critical of him don't want to give him any credit no matter what he does. There'll be excuses no matter who he beats. Excuses will come out, and there will be excuses when he beats Groves, but I hope that the majority of people see sense. Not when he beats Groves. Let me take that back, because I don't know whether he's going to beat Groves, actually. I haven't made a prediction on the fight. I'm actually borderline on the fence about who I think is going to win. But if he beats Groves, I hope the majority of people give him the credit. There's always going to be naysayers. You're never going to get rid of all of them. Ever. Nobody is. No fighter in the world is going to get rid of all their naysayers. But I hope the majority, if he beats Groves convincingly, start giving him the credit. I really hope so, because, you know, regardless of what you think, I mean, you know, outside of the ring, the stuff that Eubank Jr. says is pretty tame. You know, realistically, he's not out there like an O'Hara Davis saying all kinds of crazy things and, you know, being super controversial. No. I know you guys voted him Troll of the Year along with his dad, and by the way, his dad saw that video where you guys voted for him as Troll of the Year, and he was very happy. he mentioned on Twitter that he was voted Troll of the Year, and he was happy about you guys voting him for that. You know, he was laughing. As I've told you before, the Eubanks feed off your energy, be it positive or negative. They feed off it, and you can see Eubank Senior was he was laughing, man, when you guys voted him for. Anyway, let me stop talking about that. I'm waffling. What point was I making here? Yeah, the credit that Eubank Jr. should be getting if he beats George Groves should be from the majority of people, you know, because there are going to be so many people who are saying that Groves is going to beat him and Groves is going to destroy him. And when that don't happen, they're going to say, oh yeah, but Groves is over the hill. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't pick Groves, and then when Groves loses, say, oh, Groves is over the hill. Do not do that. Don't do it. You saw how Groves was against Cox. That's the Groves that's going to be taking on Eubank. So if you're picking Groves based upon what he did against Cox, then you can't turn around and say he's over the hill afterwards. All you're exposing is your own lack of knowledge of boxing, lack of understanding of boxing. Don't try to bring the excuse that he's over the hill when you picked him and he fought recently against Cox. In fact, I thought the Cox performance was a good performance. Yeah, vulnerable in terms of defense, but he's always had a vulnerable defense. That's nothing new. What, did he have a slick defense against Carl Froch? No. Did he have a slick defense early in his career against Kenny Anderson? No. Did he have a slick defense even against James DeGale? Not really. He managed to evade a lot of James DeGale's work, but James DeGale wasn't really throwing much early on in that fight. It's only late in the fight where James DeGale rallied and started catching Groves, and he didn't find it that difficult. So Groves has never had a slick defense. He's never been the most defensively astute fighter. So the fact that he was getting caught by Cox, that don't show me that he's over the hill. You know, I was surprised, actually. I thought Groves didn't have the level of offensive sharpness in him that he displayed in the Cox fight. So that's why I think, you know, that's why I'm still kind of on the fence about this George Groves, Chris Eubank Jr. fight. I can't wait for it, actually. I can't wait for that fight. And yeah, I'm thinking George Groves maybe on points, or Chris Eubank Jr. late stoppage. I don't know. I think it's going to be a very, very intriguing matchup. Very intriguing. Both guys are going to look to try and do damage. George Groves is a sniper. He's a very, very good puncher with the right hand. Martin Murray said that George Groves' right hand was harder than any punch that Gennady Golovkin hit him with. So that's a formidable punch. How will Eubank Jr. react when he gets hit with it? So many questions. But at the same time, when George Groves gets trapped on the ropes, as he was against Chudinov, as he was in that brief fight with Jamie Cox, as he was late in the fight against Martin Murray, when he gets trapped on the ropes, how much damage is Eubank Jr. going to do to him with those uppercuts, those body shots and all that? How will Groves survive that kind of onslaught? Can't wait to find out. Let me know how you feel about everything I talked about in this video, the comparison between Eubank Jr. and Senior. And check out the videos that should be appearing on screen right now or very shortly of some of Eubank Senior's less than convincing victories during his career. Have a look at those and come back to me and tell me that he's so much better than his son is. Or that he was so much better than his son is. So yeah, let me know, people. It's happening. I'm out.